Good afternoon, and thank you for your interest and participation in the CSDE IEP Preview Series. My name is Brian Klimkowitz. I'm the Special Education Division Director at the State Department of Education and would like to welcome you to our session, whether you're participating live this afternoon or viewing this recording at a later time. The CSDE is committed to improving the quality of IEPs and the special education process. We're in the midst of a historic statewide special education improvement effort. The foundation for this goal is the transition to a statewide Connecticut Special Education Data System, or CT-SEDS. A tremendous amount of strategic planning and collaboration has resulted in a multifaceted system of training and technical assistance designed to support our educators, parents, and other interested stakeholders in our community. We are proud to provide you with the opportunity to participate in our IEP quality training series and soon to be released CT-SEDS navigation training. We know that change is difficult, but any effort that will benefit students with disabilities in the state of Connecticut is a journey worth taking. So thank you for embracing these new opportunities, as well as your partnership and support during this exciting time. We would like to thank you, our participants, specifically for your participation and support. And this initiative will be successful because of you all. So today is our fourth session in a series that's designed to preview and highlight various components of the IEP process within CT-SEDS. Sessions will take place each Monday afternoon from 4 p.m. until 5 p.m. and can be accessed using the same Zoom link for each session. At this point, we will provide in the chat that IEP series flyer, and you can see the full schedule of events, which started on March 7th and will work through the end of May. Today's session is focused on our special education referral and determination process. Our commitment to you is to do our best to start on time and end on time, and the sessions will be recorded for future viewing and posted on our new IEP CSDE website. So we're going to be sure that you have that direct link. We will also put in the chat a copy of today's slide deck. We are in the process of also, in addition to those recordings, ensuring that our slide decks are accessible on our website as well for future viewing and to use and share either within your schools or within your teams. The structure of today's session, as previous, will include a brief presentation followed by a question and answer session. And joining me today in facilitating our session is Steve Proffitt, whom you all know from CERC and CERC team. And specifically, I would like to thank Greg Glidden for supporting these sessions and for any technical assistance provided. Our goal for today's session is to help you understand the requirements and new format of Connecticut's special education referral and to share a preview of how CT-SEDS will support the creation of this document. Due to the format of the presentation, you will not have an opportunity to unmute. However, we do encourage you to ask via the Q&A panel. If you have a question at any time, please place that Q&A which you'll find on the bottom of the screen next to the chat button. Please do not place questions in the chat panel as it may not be seen by our presenters. And if we don't have time to answer your question this afternoon, we'll be sure to record and save the question, and we'll be sure to respond to that in the future, which will help us inform future trainings as well. And the last caveat before we begin is I want to point out and highlight that this series is not a replacement for our IEP quality training or our CT-SEDS user navigation training. The sessions are rather designed to supplement and assist you in your transition from your current system and process to CT-SEDS on July 1, 2022. Okay, so let's begin with the next slide. I'd like to start by sharing a photo of page 1 and 2 of the current referral to determine eligibility for special education and related services form. This form is also known as ED 621, and this should look familiar to everyone. You can see here is a photo of page 2 as well. I'd like to take a brief moment to remind school districts that they should make available information understandable to the general public concerning the procedures for making a referral. The special education referral can be made by an adult student, a parent, school personnel, or other individuals from other agencies for whom the parents provided permission for that individual to make the referral. As an example, a physician, a social worker, or school psychologist. Pursuant to state law, district staff will promptly refer students who are suspended repeatedly in or out of school, or whose behavior, attendance, including truant behavior or academic progress in school, are considered unsatisfactory or at a marginal level of acceptance. A parent or school personnel may submit a request if they suspect that a student has a disability and should be evaluated to determine eligibility for special education and related services. A referral must be submitted in writing, but if a parent is unable to make a request in writing, the school district is responsible for assisting the parent in doing so. The referral date, which initiates the initial evaluation timeline, is the date in which the concern is expressed to the district. Here's a screenshot of the prior written notice. Sorry, that's the next slide, Steve. Excellent. So it's important to note that there are no new additional requirements in the new referral document. It is different in format, and of course, it's embedded within the CTSED system. This new document within the CTSED system will replace that former ED 621 form as of July 1, 2022. One notable change to the document is the fact that the parent notification of the referral is no longer located in the document. The notification process is addressed and documented within the system. So there's one difference to be able to highlight. Let's now take a look at how the system supports the generation of this new document. Excellent. Once users select referral and evaluations in CTSEDS, they'll be presented with 3 options. Option 1 is referral and initial evaluations. Option 2 is targeted assessments. And option 3 is a 3-year reevaluation. And you can see the circles and the check boxes underneath the select action item. A targeted assessment is an evaluation that is a non-3-year reevaluation. Today, of course, our focus is on referral and evaluation. Notice the tiles that populate this system, this process within the system. These tiles help the users navigate through the process. As each section of the process is complete, the tile will turn from gray to green. The first tile contains demographic and parent information that is pulled directly into the process. It also contains data entry fields to complete the referral document. The user will first enter the referral date and who made the referral within a drop-down format. The next task is to identify areas of concern within the drop-down menu. Multiple areas may be selected: academic, behavior, social emotional, health, gross and fine motor, communication, activities of daily living, and other. The users will then enter the specific concerns and any alternative strategies attempted and the outcomes of those strategies. The final step in the process is to indicate whether or not the student was provided special services in the past and any other relevant information that is important for the team. Once completed, click the Save button and then create referral document. And you can see the red arrow highlights that document below. The next slide is a photo of the page 1 of the new document generated in CTSEDS. And this slide depicts the second page. The final step in this section of the system is to create a parent notice of referral to determine eligibility for special education and related services. You can see depicted here on the next slide. The new document will replace the current document, ED 622, as of July 1, 2022. So the referral document is generated, the parent notice of referral is generated, all within the system. When those steps are complete, the tile turns from gray to green, as you can see depicted here in this photo. If information is started but is not complete, the tile will turn red and indicate that there are more actions or more data that needs to be entered for that process to be complete. The next step in the process is to create a notice of planning and placement team. When the PPT convenes, the user will generate a record of meeting and document attendance and/or request excusal of planning and placement team members. We reviewed these steps during our previous IEP preview sessions. And at the conclusion of the PPT-1, the user will document whether or not the PPT decided to conduct an initial evaluation for the purpose of determining eligibility for special education and related services. Here is what that looks like in the system. Next slide. Perfect. If an evaluation is warranted, the user is prompted to complete a prior written notice and a consent for evaluation. If an evaluation is not warranted, the user is prompted to complete a prior written notice. The date of decision will populate from the planning and placement team notice. As you can see on this slide, once a determination is entered and all the steps are completed, the tile turns green. Here's a photo of the current consent form, ED 625. In a few slides, I will show you the CT SEDS generated document, but first let's take a look at how CT SEDS will support the generation of this new document. Remember, we are still in the PPT-1 process and are proceeding as though the team is recommending an initial evaluation. The user will first select from two checkboxes: tests evaluation procedures listed below, or the PPT has decided that the available information listed below is sufficient to determine the child's eligibility. If the second option is selected, as you will see in this photo, as you are seeing in this photo, a text box will appear so that the user can describe the information that the PPT is using to make the eligibility determination. If the first box is selected, the user will select the assessment area, the test evaluation procedure, and the evaluator from a series of drop-down menus. Let's go on to the next slide and take a look at what happens when the first box is selected. The user can quickly navigate through this section by checking the appropriate areas and making their selections. There are a variety of areas to select from, although all are not displayed in this particular photo. In addition to the areas you can see on this slide, there are also options for communication or speech and language, fine and gross motor development, assistive technology, vocational and transition, health, as well as an option for other. The final data component necessary for the generation of the referral document is to select whether or not adaptations or accommodations are required for the student during the evaluation. If required, the user will have a text box to describe the necessary accommodations, as you can see under the Specify tab there. The final step in this process is to generate a parent consent to conduct the evaluation. This can be accomplished with ease by clicking on the Create Consent document. There is also a Save button there, as you can see, to ensure that information was saved. And note on the bottom of this photo that the user has the ability to acquire the parent's signature in one of three ways. It can be obtained during the meeting digitally within the system through a digital signature. The document, once generated, can be sent to the parent portal for the parent to review the information, to sign it and send back, or the school district can produce the document to the parent either in person or mail it as for a hard copy signature. So you'll always have those three options whenever parent consent is required. And here finally is what page 1 of the consent document will look like. You can see the listed, there is a sample. I do want to mention that these are fictitious data just used for demonstration purposes, but you can see that the form's populated with assessment types. And in this particular case, there were no adaptations required for the student. The next slide will show page 2. The date that the parent signs consent is, as you know, extremely important in the initial evaluation timelines calculation. This date will be entered into the system, and CTSEDS will automatically calculate the 45 school day initial evaluation timeline based on specific school calendars entered into the system. And we all are familiar with those critical dates from referral all the way through IEP implementation. So in summary, there are no new requirements in this form, but it does have a different format, as you saw. We also have slightly updated language within the parent notes section. If a PPT determines that an evaluation is not warranted, the process ends with the parent receiving prior written notice and the record of meeting form from Planning and Placement Team 1 or the Review Referral Planning and Placement Team meeting. As I mentioned, we do have a session specifically on record of meeting. If the PPT determines that an evaluation is warranted, once the evaluation is designed and consent is obtained, the process will continue. The user will then create a notice of planning and placement team meeting to review the evaluation results, determine eligibility, and if eligible, create an IEP for the student. If the student's determined not eligible by the PPT, a record of meeting document can be used. During the PPT meeting, to review evaluations, determine eligibility, and if eligible to create the IEP, attendance will be documented in the system along with any excusals as we have shown previously. And during the meeting, an eligibility determination will be entered into the CTSEDS system. The next few slides will show you how the system will support this process. The first question the PPT will answer is whether or not a student has a disability. If the answer is no, the student would not qualify for special education. If the answer is yes, select a primary disability category can be selected from a drop-down menu, as you can see in blue here. The next task is to answer questions related to determinant factors. Is there an adverse effect on the child's educational performance? If no, the student would not qualify. If yes, the PPT will describe that adverse effect. The next questions relate to the student's lack of progress. If the lack of progress is related to lack of appropriate instruction in reading or math, or as a result of limited English proficiency, the student would not qualify. If not, the PPT must determine whether or not the student requires specially designed instruction. The system is now ready to receive eligibility determination information from the planning and placement team. To enter this information, the user will click on the blue link in the right-hand upper corner and then enter the eligibility determination. The primary disability category will pre-populate, but the eligibility date should be entered. Once the required information is entered, the determination is finalized in the system. At this point in the presentation, it's a good time to note that the system does not contain disability-specific eligibility documents, with the exception of the Multidisciplinary Evaluation Report, or MER, for students who are suspected of having specific learning disability or dyslexia. The BSE encourages PPTs to continue to use the eligibility documents when making determinations as a tool for the planning and placement team. Those completed documents can be uploaded in the system and maintained in the student's document repository. To create a consent for initial provision of special education, click on the green consent document button below, and you can see the red arrow is pointing to that document button. The next slide shows you that CT SEDS collects the date the consent for initial provision is sent when the school district receives it. And on the next slide, and this will sometimes be on the same day, the system also captures the reason for delay if the PPT meeting is beyond the 45 school days in the evaluation time. And here is the photo of the simple interface to enter the consent received from the parent. And finally, this slide is a photo of the document that is generated. And this document, as others, would replace the former ED forms. In this case, it would replace ED 626 as of July 1, 2022. I'd like to end the presentation with a few important points of summary. CT SEDS contains all of the required documents for the referral and eligibility determination process. ED 621, which is the referral, ED 622, which is parent notice of referral, ED 625, which is notice and consent to conduct an initial evaluation, and ED 626, which is consent for initial provision of special education and related services. Those forms will no longer be used as of July 1, 2022. There are no new additional requirements in the documents that are currently in place, only formatting adjustments and minor revisions. Primary disability eligibility worksheets are not embedded in the system, again, with the exception of the MER, or Multidisciplinary Evaluation Report, for students suspected with a specific learning disability. Evaluation reports, when completed, can be uploaded in the system. I did not include a slide for that, but that is a capability of the system and a section within the process that would happen between that first planning and placement team meeting when a referral is reviewed and before the second planning and placement team meeting when the evaluation is reviewed and an eligibility determination is made. And finally, just to reiterate, there are those 3 ways to be able to obtain a parent's consent within the system. There is an electronic signature ability and capability if that person has, if that parent or guardian has a device within the virtual space. It can also be sent via the parent portal to the parent or guardian for future consent, with that document being sent back to the team. And of course, there's the ability to print out a document and obtain a hard copy signature, either live or in person or through mail. So that concludes our presentation this afternoon. Thank you for your attention. And at this point, we can stop the recording and address any questions that have been posed in the Q&A document.